Today I'm going to be talking about why you've been unable to quit porn up until this point. If you're anything like me, you've been stuck in a porn addiction for a little while and you're probably doubting yourself, why can't I quit this? It's been quite a while now, I keep going on these streaks, so I keep trying, but no matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, I always end up back at porn. I was in that cycle for around 9 or 10 years. It's now been around a year or so since I last chose to engage in pornography. Life's transformed entirely. I can't even describe how much better life is now having chosen to stop watching porn. And today I'm going to be sharing with you exactly why you've been unable to quit up until this point. So if you've been down a similar route to me, you've probably tried things like NoFap, you've probably tried things like self-improvement, things like journaling, maybe meditating, the gym, staying busy, socializing more, trying to find your purpose in life, reading a lot of books, maybe getting into psychology, reading and listening to people who are very, very smart and talking about addiction, and maybe even reading books like Your Brain on Porn and other books around porn addiction in particular. But if you're here, you're still watching this, chances are there's been a moment where no matter what you've done, you've ended up back watching porn. And then you're like, well, how have I ended up here again? Like, what keeps on going on? Like, why can't I quit this? What's wrong with me? They're the sort of questions that can come up. These are the questions I had for years and years and years. And the truth is, we need to understand the different parts at play in addiction, the different players. So we've got the addictive part of the mind, we've got the rational mind, and we've got the child self. I'm not going to talk about the child self too much in this video, but just to keep things really, really simple, I'll do a quick overview of these two core parts. So the addictive part of the mind, essentially, there's this part of your brain that, for whatever reason, and really the reason is because your brain's involved in what we call a psychological, emotional dependency on a mind's mood altering experience. So that's the reason, really. The addictive part of the mind, because of that, these rewired, addicted neural pathways, because of that, it just wants you to watch porn. It just wants you to engage in this behaviour. And as brutal as it is, it's really going to do whatever it can to get you to engage in this behaviour. It doesn't care about your mental health, doesn't care about your friends, doesn't care about your family, doesn't care about the consequences. Just wants you to engage in your compulsive behaviour 24/7, one job, all right? Now, we also have the rational mind. The rational mind is probably you listening to this right now. The rational mind will be the part of you that has chosen to go to therapy perhaps in the past, or maybe watch YouTube videos on how to stop this problem. The rational mind has probably journaled and meditated and worked out and maybe, read a lot of books and things like that. So the rational part of you wants to stop this behavior. And so that's why, there is a part of you that rationally is like, yep, I want to stop this, serious consequences in my life. It's maybe impacting my confidence, resulting in shame, maybe erectile dysfunction, less connected with people, and many other reasons, right? There's a lot of reasons to stop watching porn, of course. So the rational mind wants to stop this behavior. And it's the rational mind that is, thinking through things quite logically in life in general. But then suddenly, out of nowhere, the addictive part of the mind says something. Oh, it's been a long day. Oh, I'm feeling really stressed. I've got nothing to do. I'm a bit bored right now. The addictive part of the mind could say, well, I could just have one little peek and then I'll stop. Or, oh, it's not that bad. Everyone does it. It's pretty normal. Or maybe, oh, this doesn't count as porn. If it's on social media and I just happen to see it accidentally, then that doesn't really count, right? Okay, so we've got the addictive part of the mind saying all this bullshit. The rational part of the mind's doing all this different stuff, trying to stop the behaviour, and then eventually you go and relapse. You go watch porn, and so what's happened? Well, what's happened is you've been in a constant conflict. A part of your mind's wanted to stop it, and a part of your mind's wanted to do it. And unfortunately, most people out there, most conventional approaches, most stuff you're ever really going to listen to is just going to focus on denying that you even want to do this thing. And so they're going to be talking about, staying busy, distracting yourself, removing the triggers, reading the self-improvement, meditating, all this stuff, which really on some level is actually just avoiding the problem. It's just ignoring the addictive part of the mind. And it's like a feeble attempt of silencing the addictive part of the mind. But because the brain's rewired and you have these addictive neural pathways at this point in time, and that can be reversed, due to neuroplasticity, you can actually rewire the brain and overcome this problem correctly for good, which is what I've done and which is what my clients do. So you can overcome this, but it's not going to happen if you don't let the addictive part of the mind talk. Now, this is where people really, really go wrong. This is probably where you've gone wrong up until now, because you've been terrified. You've been terrified that if you have an urge, if you have the desire and the addictive part of the mind starts spewing all this bullshit, you're going to get out of control and relapse. And so removing the triggers, installing blockers, staying busy, doing all this random shit, trying to stop having the desires, trying to silence the addictive part of the mind is actually conditioning you to become even more helpless. So then when you do eventually have the addictive part of the mind, because compulsive desire actually refuses to be ignored, you're going to have it, and it's not due to stress or loneliness or tiredness or all this random stuff. It's just due to neural pathways being addicted right now, and there's nothing wrong with you for having addicted neural pathways. You were probably incredibly young when you really even got into all of this, right? So you develop these addictive neural pathways at a young age. The addictive part of the mind is now going to do whatever it can to get you to engage in your compulsive behaviour. But then you've been living on this self-improvement treadmill probably, trying your best to avoid, distract, substitute out porn for other things, all this random stuff, without ever actually letting the addictive part of the mind talk and dealing with it directly. So what we want to do is start letting the addictive part of the mind talk, correcting the irrational bullshit thoughts that come up, like, oh, I'll just look once, then I'll start again tomorrow. It's bullshit. You look once, you're back in addiction full time, indefinitely. We want to start correcting the thoughts like, oh, it's okay if I look at sexual content on social media, that doesn't count as porn. And be like, no, that's bullshit. If I look at sexual content on social media, I know there's going to be severe consequences. That is not okay with me. I know that if I look just one time, I'm back in that addiction full time, and that leads to a lack of self-respect. It leads to a lack of confidence. It leads to a shit ton of shame. It leads to me feeling disconnected. It leads to less sort of motivation and drive, and it ruins my life. And that's what we want to do, is start to let the addictive part of the mind talk, but then counter it with the truth, with the reality. That's where scripts come in. I personally, and what my clients do, is we write a script so that in that moment when we have the compulsive desire, which is totally natural and expected, instead of trying to deal with it in that moment and make up and be creative right there and then when the addictive part of the mind's talking, go straight to a pre-prepared bit of paper, some words on it that actually documents the reality of addiction, and read through that. And it's in that moment that we start to actually rewire the brain. We make a choice, and every single time you experience the desire and you choose to willingly accept that temporary discomfort, and you don't act on it, well, what you're doing is you actually start to change the neural pathways. And then what you can do is just keep on doing this and build it into a repetitive practice in your life, where you're reading through the script, you're reading through the reality, you're continually putting the rational mind back in control, taking back your power from the addictive part of the mind, and then you're going to have freedom, you're going to have peace of mind, and you're never going to be scared of this problem anymore. You're never going to be scared of urges. You're not going to be doing all this random self-improvement stuff. You're not going to be removing all the triggers and installing blockers and worried about how do you deal with this problem. You're going to be the one in control. That's how you get in control. This is why we've been unable to stop watching porn up until this point. Hopefully this makes a bit of sense. Go grab the free training, link in the description. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.